Hello, everybody. I've met some of you this morning. Some faces I think I haven't shaken your hand. I'm Bernard. I don't know how you pronounce it over here. I'm from South Africa, so we are very, very good friends with Glenn and Marilee. So when they told us they were moving here, we rejoiced for you guys, but we cried for us. Okay, so now there's a Glenn and Marilee shaped hole in South Africa, and we miss them dearly. So a quick testimony from my side, and I think some of my testimony has got to do with this church. Back in 2018, we booked flight tickets to visit you guys, to visit Firebrand Church as an outreach. Me and my wife Simone, we were very excited. That was in September, I think, the flight tickets, the trip, September 2018. But in 2017 already, I'd felt a weird numbness in my leg, and it just didn't go away. I visited the doctor. The doctor said it's probably a pinched nerve, so you just have to wait it out. It's going to get better all on it by itself. And I waited and I waited, and I noticed the leg now starts getting weaker. So my leg would just buckle out from under me, so I was losing strength in the leg. So I went back and I got referred to a neurologist, and they did some scans, and they found that I had brain cancer. So I had a big tumor in my brain, and it grew on the nerve stem that supply the left side of my body with nerves, hence the weakness in my leg, hence the numbness. So I don't have a lot of feeling in this leg. I don't have a lot of control over my left foot, and my leg still sometimes buckles out from under me. So, but I had to get drill a hole in my skull, and they had to take a little biopsy of the tumor, and it was malignant. So the doctor said I only have so many years left. So I had actually got an expiry date spoken over me by the doctor. He said, this is what you're going to die from. There is basically zero survival rate. This is terminal for you. And after the biopsy, I started getting seizures because of the needle in my brain. So I had to go on epilepsy meds, and I couldn't walk. My leg was so weak, I fell down all the time. I had a permanently sprained ankles and sore everything. Yeah, it wasn't great. So we prayed and we prayed, and we just really petitioned the Lord. So you know how you think you're patient until you get to a queue, and then suddenly you realize you're not that patient, not as patient as you thought you were. Or you're very loving until somebody asks you for something, and a beggar on the street asks you, and then suddenly you're like, and you realize you're not as loving as you thought. You don't really shine the love of Jesus. Am I the only one? So I think this was my big test, and I always thought that I had faith. And it's been spoken over me, I've got the gift of faith. So I have faith very easily for others. But I didn't have faith for myself. And so this was my big test. One of my big tests, and I don't know how many other tests are going to come, but that was the one test that I faced. And so obviously the trip got cancelled. I couldn't come with a diagnosis. I had to go to hospital. I had to start chemo immediately, and radiation, brain radiation. I had the maximum dose of brain radiation that a person can take in his brain. So the doctor said in about 3 years' time, I'm going to start forgetting stuff. So the brain radiation was going to have an effect on me. Thank you, Jesus, that hasn't happened, I think. Yeah. I can't. Yeah. So I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning, but the doctor said I'm going to be fine. But actually, as far as I'm aware, and I think this is a very difficult thing to know if you're forgetting stuff. It could just. Yeah. So my wife says I'm not forgetting stuff. I'm not being forgetful, although she does remind me often. So thank you for. For just telling me where I'm wrong. I appreciate that. But so yeah, that was my very, very big struggle for us, this whole faith battle. And we petitioned the Lord and we prayed for miracle healings, so much miracle healings. You know, every time we went for a scan, we prayed that there would be nothing there and the tumor would be gone. And it wasn't. And it was a journey. It was a long, long journey. It was a 2-3 year journey. I couldn't drive a car because of my lame leg. I'm not allowed to drive until I'm 6 or 8 months fit-free in South Africa. So I had to wait for that. My poor wife had to do everything in the house. I could hardly get up from bed. I was so weak with the chemo and the fits. But just a quick end to this wonderful testimony is that Jesus is the God that heals. Amen. It's an absolute healing miracle. I've been in remission for 2 years now. Every single scan has shown that. Yeah.
I think God uses different people to get us to Him. Like my brother was bad in addiction and I wanted to help him in his addiction. And a friend of mine said to ring Hammy. And I started going to church just to help him. I didn't need any help. And I went to a few prayer meetings. I used to think they were all mad. But there was one, I remember one time that I went to pick John up for church and he was in no fit state to come. And I took the hump with him and I was like, I'm going without you. And it was in the Green Isle Hotel and Brenda was up preaching and God spoke to me that day. I filled up with tears. And it was like everything about me she spoke about. And I kept saying, Johnner's after telling her stuff about me. He's talking to them because everything related to me. And I left that day thinking, now I'm going to kill him. And he was like, no, I didn't. But I gave my life to Jesus. And I am a different person now. In my walk, I was in and out. Last Christmas, I didn't drink anymore because it led to partying all night. And I had a little slip last Christmas, but I'm a year off drink and everything else. I've no interest in it whatsoever. I like going to bed on a Saturday night and getting up on a Sunday morning, coming to church and feeling alive, not sitting on the sofa. But another thing I want to share about to the new people is answered prayers. We had a Bible study in my house one night and Tracy asked me, was my house mine? And I said, no, I'm renting here. So she told me that she had a dream of a building site. And straight away I was like, is it a house? Because I wanted a house, right? And she was like, I don't know, Elaine, a building site, muck everywhere, she said, and you were saying, this is my new home. So Brenda and Tracy prayed that night. And I found this piece of paper, like Nicole fell out my Bible the other day, and it was a prayer for me to get me forever home. My prayer was answered there 4 months ago, and I got my forever home. I'm after getting a new job as well, and it's in His time, because every time I see in a house, I'm like, I want the house, I want that, and I'm praying, but it's like someone else preached here, to have patience, because it's in God's time, not our time. And I'm believing for my family as well, and I'm still keeping faith for them to come to church as well. And I just want to share a little scripture that we all have our problems and our worries, and we're not meant to hold on to them. So it's Matthew 11:28. Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my burden I will give you delight. Hallelujah. So thank you, Jesus. I'm short now, that's it.
Those who don't know me, my name is Jimmy Whelan. I've been coming to Firebrand Church now 6 months, thanks to Sharon Nolan, who's away at the moment. So just a little bit about myself. Thanks, Lord, for my salvation. Let's start off with that. Right. What can I say? I come from a large family. There's a load of us from Aylesbury originally. Thanks to the eldest brother, I invited him to come today, and he did, you know. So, right. So, at a young age, a disaster writ all over me, you know. I have to admit, it wasn't everybody's acquired cup of tea, you know. But went through the system, as I know, Hammy thinks somewhere down that line, you know. But I come through it, right? I got married, got the kids, got it all set, and sorry folks, I haven't a clue, I'm stressed, right? So I ended up breaking me back, right? I met Sharon Nolan up the top of the road one day, I was talking to her, and that kind of pulled the handbrake up in my life, forget me a fry, you know, that was it. Now through stupidity, you know, through the alcohol and the drugs, I snapped me back, but, you know, so I ended up coming to Firebrand, jumped 2 feet straight in, went up and got baptised the whole lot. I says, right Jimmy, if you're going to do this Christian thing, jump straight in. So, you know, see where it goes, see what becomes of it, you know. Now, things have changed, you know, I've noticed it in the house, you know. I think you stop the hard man act, just be yourself, you know what I mean? Stop trying to impress, stop being a bully to other people, just be yourself, you know what I mean? And that's what I figured, like, they say talking to yourself is the first sign of madness, but when I'm walking down the road at 7:30 every morning and I'm talking to Jesus, to myself, whether I'm on my own or have my grandson in the pram and I'm talking, God loving me, just be looking back to see who I'm talking to, you know? But like, I'd be talking and I'd ask him for help, you know? Never had to do that before, you know what I mean? I was always the fucking wise man, the little hard man, you know, like, all that's gone, you know what I mean? You have to drop these chains and break these chains and just drop this wall and just be yourself, you know? You know? And I just one thing I want to say to me brother, right? Sorry for years ago, bro, you know? I am, you know? I can actually stand here now as a Christian and say, I'm sorry for the shit I caused years ago as a brother, you know?
Always be brother. Can you live? Always be brother. Thank you.
So, this is the brother Darren, by the way, right? So, all I can say is, right, it broke me back, came up to this church, got baptised the whole lot. Darren, that's a lot of my mind getting that to you, bro. You know. But anyway, they say through Jesus, through the power of healing, you know. Folks, it was only 6 months ago I'd have broken back, you know what I mean? And I'm healed, I'm not on medication, I'm on nothing, you know what I mean? You know, and I'm grateful now, I'm back working, there's so much work I have, you know what I mean? I can't stop working, I'm doing 6 days, and I love it. And I know it's great getting out of the house, you know what I mean? Good luck, you know? But like, it's hard, like, it's a lot easier when you just accept, you know what I mean? I've come to that, you know what I mean? Just to accept them into your life, you know? There's no more of this pretending, you know? Fair enough, I'm not broken all the chains at the moment, but I'm trying, you know what I mean? With the help of God, you know? So that's just my little testimony, and I hope next year I'll be able to give you all another one. All right?
Jesus, because a prayer has been answered this morning, and my sister is here, and I've been praying for months. I'm so nervous, and I feel like sobbing. But I came to this church like 5 years ago, and I was like so broken when I came here. And I just remember coming from my ma, and I was like, oh, she found her thing, it's great. And we always had like a faithful family, and we always loved Jesus. But I sort of lost it when I grew up, because obviously I just, you know, you grow up, you get into the world, and the world just destroys you. And it destroyed me completely. And I came to church, and I gave my life to the Lord in 2018. And sorry, can you hear that? I'm nervous. Right. And then I got taken out of church by people, and they told me like, oh, don't go there. Like, they're all mad there. And I was like, do you know what? I listened to them, because they just kept, you know, they were persecuting my faith, and I just couldn't stand it. And I came out of the church, and then lockdown happened. And then last year in November, I came back, and you know, do you know what? I'll go back a bit, right? And then last year in March, I went through it, and I had it was horrible. I was depressed, I was suicidal. I had crippling anxiety, I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. I was wearing away, and I always said to me, Ma, and I was like, Ma, God hates me. And she was like, God doesn't hate you. And I was like, Ma, he does. Why am I going through this? And she's like, ask him for help. And I was like, no, because there's no hope. I had no hope in my heart. I was so broken. And I remember I just couldn't stop crying. I'd wake up and I'd cry. I'd go to sleep and I'd cry. Everything, I was just so sad. And I remember just one time I was walking home, and I walked upstairs and I fell on my knees and I asked God to help me. And I'll never forget the presence of the Lord. It just fell over me. And I never forget that moment, because that was the moment I was like, Jesus does love me, and I'll never forget that love. And that was the love I needed. And then a few months later, I went back to church, and Hammy actually came to the door. And I only remember this because I went through my messages, and I was like, oh, Ma, Hammy was here. And she was like, did he say anything about the extension? And I was like, no, but he told me to come back to church, and 2 laughing faces. And then that week I came back to church, and I never missed another one. And this year God has blessed me abundantly. Like, ever since I just gave him everything. I gave him everything, and I know that God changed me from November until this whole year. But in March, I went to, in January, I really broke again. I really did break, and I lost a lot of faith. And then I remember being suicidal. I was actually so suicidal in March, and I was planning on taking my life. And then Brenda said to me, do you want to come to that retreat? And I was like, oh no, I can't go to that retreat. And I was really like, I can't live anymore. And it was like God the timing was perfect, because I went to that retreat and my life changed. My life changed completely. God really touched me, and it was just, I came back, even my sister and my mom will say, I just came back a different person. And I would never do this. I would never be up in worship. I don't identify with that person anymore. I don't see her. Even when I think back, I'm like, who was she? Like, I would sit at the back of church and I'd be like shaking, and then it'd be over and I'd be like, oh, let's go. And then it got to the point where I was like, no, we're staying. Like, why are we going so early? And I feel like everything I said, I was like, I'll never do this, I'll never do that. Everything I said, it was like God was like, no, you're going to do that. Like, I didn't know the Isle of Man was even a country until this year, right? And I was like, I'm not going there. I remember sitting here in January and we were all talking about it. And I was like, no, I'm not going there. And then I was like, I'm not going to that retreat. I'd never go to South Africa. I think the amount of stuff. I'll never do Sunday school. Now I thought, I'll never do worship. God was like, no, you're doing that. You're doing that. And I was like, okay, God, I'll do that. But no, it's just mad. Like this, I just can't comprehend the person I was before Jesus. Like, I really can't. But what else? I haven't suffered with anxiety or depression since March, and I was crippled. Like, I was crippled. I couldn't speak to people, and food freedom. This is a big thing with me. Food freedom. I had restrictions on my food from an early age. Since I was 7, I suffered with anorexia. I suffered with body dysmorphia, and God just healed me. That was something in my life that I was like, thank you, Jesus, for healing me depression and my anxiety. That's okay, thanks a million. And then it was like, that's not enough. You still have chains there that need to be broken. And in July, August, the food freedom came, because I always had food restrictions. I always get, like, I always was like, I can't eat this because of this, I can't eat this because of this. But that was my own mind telling me that. And yeah, I woke up one morning and I just was like, I can eat whatever I want. And it was just like, God was like, yeah, you can. Like, and then I remember opening Acts 10 and it was like, whatever God makes is clean. So I just remember I was literally mind blown, and I was like, this sounds so stupid, because nobody gets this, like, no, because everyone knows you can eat whatever you want, but for some reason my brain was like, no, you can't eat this. But even now, literally until recently, we went to prayer meeting and Hammy got people to pray on me, and I was suffering really bad with body dysmorphia recently, and I woke up the next morning and I just looked at myself differently, and I really was like, no, I'm not that person. I was just like really, like and I didn't know how to fight it, and I was like, God, please help me. Like, why am I not seeing myself the way other people see me? Like, I just feel like, I just felt really big. Like I used to look in the mirror and I just see a different person, and I just feel like God has healed me completely. I don't know the person I was last year. Yeah. So thank you to you.
Good morning, everybody. So just anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Ross. So we're just told to give testimony for the last year, and like last year I was an atheist. I didn't believe in Jesus, had no faith in God, and it was from a young age. I think I believed from a young age, thinking back, but somewhere along the line I lost faith in Jesus and in God, and I just didn't think of how he was real. And like, we grew up we were Catholics in the family. We weren't practicing, but in our family, the only time we go to church is kind of Christmas time or any events or anything like that. And I just never had any faith. But I remember, I think it was I got with Leah. We were together since we were like 16, and it was, Nicole was in the church first, and then I think Leah was in around 18, 19 when she started to go to the church then in Firebrand. And I remember she would always be telling me things of what's going on in the church, of healings and stuff that's going on, and I'd always just scoff and bat it away, saying that's not real, like that's not gonna that can't happen. And but I remember always having like that fear of the unknown, or not knowing why I'm here, or what the purpose of life was. And I remember from a young age I'd always question that. I'd always be asking people of what's next, what's after, and I think as I got older, that fear, I just tried to suppress it, and I'd always just come back to the point where it was just, what was the point? What was my purpose in life? Because even like, I came to church a year ago, and like, I had, from the outside looking in, I had a loving family, I had a beautiful girlfriend, I had a nice car, I had a job, I had a good job, I had money, but I didn't have anything in reality of it. But I came to Firebrand Church actually when it was in City West in like 2017, 18 I think. Leah invited me, well, a number of times, but I finally said that I'd go just to shut her up, but it was just to buy a bit of time. So like, I came, I think I was like 19, 20, I'm not sure, but I just came just as I get it over with, and just that she'd stop asking me. But I remember seeing everybody there, and when they were worshipping, I knew that the Spirit of God was there. And I still remember even that the preaching and the worship, that time, like, that always stayed with me even afterwards. From that moment, I think God was working on me, because I'd always think back, even like trying to go to sleep at night, like with the fear, and I'd always be thinking back, and from that moment I'd always start questioning then, is he actually real? Like, is Jesus real? From that time on, like the Spirit was working on my heart. But then I think it was last year, stuff just kept getting left on my car, and like he was calling me, he was using different people in my life and different things in my life to call me. And I remember Leah was asking me again to kind of go to church, and I was saying, no, I tried that church, I don't like that. She was saying, oh, maybe go to a Bible study then. I said, yeah, fine, I'll go with that. And I remember I was actually looking forward to it, but I couldn't show that I was looking forward to it. But there was something inside me that I couldn't wait to actually go. It was just that, just like kind of like the rebellion. But I remember it kept getting cancelled. There was something would happen, and I'd be nearly like, wishing that it would go on. I remember 2 or 3 weeks, and it just kept getting cancelled for whatever reason, but I was looking forward to it so much. And I remember a woman then I think we were in the square, and we were gonna go this way, and then I said, oh no, we'll go out this way to the car. And I remember a woman came up to me and handed me a leaflet. It was like a football leaflet about Jesus, about salvation, and it was basically God speaking to me in that time that confirmed that I was gonna give it a try. I was gonna go to the church, and I was gonna see what it was all about. And that's when I came to church then. I think it was about a year ago, and I've never looked back since. I gave my life to him then. But ever since then, he's showed me, he's taught me along the way of just to surrender my life to him, and that he's faithful in it. And like now I have faith. I know where I'm going. There's no fear. There's nothing there. He's changed my heart even as well. Like, I had a cold heart. Like, I count on one hand the amount of times I'd cried, but even I can't. It's countless now, and he's just faithful. And just as Psalm 18:16, he reached down from heaven and rescued me. He drew me out of deep waters. And I love that scripture because when I first got saved, I had a dream, and that I was crossing a body of water, and it was easy to do. And I jumped in, and I was swimming in the stream, and just before I was getting to the end, it was only a short swim, I lost all strength in my body, and I was getting drifted out to sea. And it was going to be the end of my life in this dream, but God reached down his hand, the hand reached down and lifted me out of the water and brought me safely to the other side. It's just him showing me that in my own strength, I can't do anything. It's only through the grace of God, and only through him that I can do it.
Lord, hallelujah.